It's really amazing that we started this day by talking about the personal, on the why we are engaged in impact. And when Omri and I talked with all the speakers of this session and asked them for their own vision of Israel 2030, I think that we all thought about one vision. One vision where impact and impact investing and impact entrepreneurship would play a major role in an inclusive and more tolerant Israel of 2030. And for me, and for I think that for all of us here, the values, meeting the personal, meeting the future, is something that is going through all this day. I'm really glad to invite two wonderful and very, very, very professional women, Orit Vaknin, Managing Partner Beyond Family Office, and Dalia Black, Impact Investment Consultant, presenting impact and opportunities of private funding. Please.
Hi, good afternoon. So just to be clear, I'm Dalia.
Hi.
So we heard a lot this morning about the importance of moving institutional capital from Amit and then from Marissa and also from Philippe. Just to be clear, it is not institutional capital that coined the phrase impact investing, that took first moves into setting up impact funds, and it was not institutional capital that today is the most creative and flexible capital in the impact investing space. It is the foundations in the UK and the US, and today in Israel, and private wealth holders that were the ones to step up and start to make a change. And they are the ones that built the ecosystem. And Orit and I decided that at 4 o'clock it was fine for us to ignore Omri and Raida's request as to what we would talk about.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk to you about 2030 because we're actually going to talk to you about May 2019, because for both of us, we are currently extremely active in a very vibrant ecosystem which covers all asset classes and all content topics. And we're going to have a very intimate conversation with the two of us and the 400 close friends that we are here with together today about the deals that we see and some of what we're doing in our day-to-day. So with that, Orit, can you share with everyone what the atmosphere is amongst private wealth holders here in Israel with regards to impact investing?
Absolutely. So, hey, thank you for inviting us. This is so awesome. We were thinking about it a couple of days ago. We were talking, and we said if we were to be in an event like that when we started 4 years ago, it would have been a very lonely event, right? It would have been like us and maybe a couple of you. And this is just so inspiring and so much fun to see this. I I want to cry. I'm so happy.
Don't cry.
I'm Moroccan. We cry when we're happy. That's how we roll. So yeah, when we started, we very much felt like the odd hippie in the room. We would walk into a space, say that we're doing impact investing with private wealth, and people are like, "Oh, yeah, good luck with that." And honestly, what we see around us in the last few years, and it's just exponential growth. The way that people are looking at their investments, and I'm talking mostly from the perspective of private wealth. I run together with my lovely partner Lital Slavin and Danny Almagor up there, a multifamily office that focuses on impact. And what we see is really immense interest in starting to look at investments from a very different viewpoint of what people used to look at. So instead of the traditional way of making money in order to make money, people are starting to look at their wealth from a much more holistic point of view. They're thinking, my wealth is part of my identity. And especially when you come from a family of wealth, like it or not, this is a big part of who you are. And the fact that people are thinking along those lines is very refreshing. Instead of making money for the sake of making money, we're making money as a part of who we are. We're thinking about what legacy we want to leave behind. We're thinking about the things that we care about. And we translate that into an investment portfolio, which is really beautiful. I mean, the process that we go through with families that we work with is alongside the traditional process of understanding the liquidity needs and the risk profile, et cetera. We embark on a journey of understanding what the values that the family shares are, and both as individuals and as a family. And then after we go through this whole process, we translate that into a portfolio that is really a reflection of who the family is and what they stand for. You know, and the bottom line is, when you invest with impact, you're investing with meaning. You find meaning in your wealth. And the processes that we see with families is pretty remarkable, because it's not only that you find more meaning in what you do, but also when you talk about investment with the values that the family share, it creates such a bond and such a connection within the family that is remarkable. And it's so much more joyful to have these kinds of discussions within the family. And, you know, at the end of the day, that's what we're all here for, impact investing. A lot of it is about having fun while investing. So, yeah, I think it's pretty awesome in that sense. So maybe, do you want to share a little bit about the trends that you see in the foundations world?
So just in case some of you don't know, most foundations have two pots of capital. An endowment, which is the bulk that sits in the bank and is usually invested in stocks and shares, and then their program capital. And the beauty about being a foundation in impact investing is you can be completely creative. You can use capital from your endowment, or you can use capital from your program, or from both. So what we've seen in Israel over the last 12 months is you have foundations like Rothschild Caesarea, which you heard about this morning, who've invested a huge amount of capital from their grant budget in setting up the ecosystem. You have other foundations like the Glaser Foundation from the US that does what's called hybrid financing. So they're combining grant together with debt so that they can take a riskier position, but they can also make an investment in an early stage startup. And then you have foundations like the Leichtag Foundation from the US, which has an endowment of over $100 million, which is today 100% impact invested endowment that is looking and has made investments in impact funds here in Israel. So what we see in the foundation world is that, first of all, everybody is asking themselves the question, like, what part am I going to play in this? Which at the moment might be, I'm not going to play any part in this. But everyone is asking themselves whether the wealth that they're holding, similar to what Orit is saying, does it match our values? Like, we're spending millions on changing education. Is the money sitting in our stocks and shares causing damage that we then have to fix? So these are the questions that everyone's asking, and people are beginning to make those changes and make those moves. So maybe with that, would you feel comfortable sharing with us a little bit more of a deeper dive into your portfolio?
I'm comfortable. I don't know if my clients would be comfortable with me sharing. Yeah, anonymously. I'll give you two examples of portfolios. So I guess one of them is more of a thematic portfolio, where we think about the themes that the family cares about, and then we translate those into the portfolio. And then the other one would be a more of an overarching strategy, a more well-diversified type of portfolio. So I'll start with the thematic one. It's a family that have decided through the process that we went through that the two things that they care about are food and gender equality. So within food, we would look at the entire chain from the sourcing of food, how we do it, how we nourish ourselves, and how we create equality in the delivery of quality food around the globe. So we look at various food tech companies, food tech funds. We're invested in an aquaculture, aqua farming fund, and meat substitute companies, etc. So obviously tech has a lot to do with many of the things that we do, and we try to get us towards the world that we want to live in and making a difference and being a catalyst of change. Within the gender equality element, we're looking more through a lens of everything that we invest in needs to have the certain matrix that the family thinks about when they think about gender equality. And alongside that, we also invest in companies that promote specifically girls and young women in science. So that would be one example. On the other side of the spectrum are a family that what they care about is creating a systematic change. So they don't necessarily care about which industry it goes into or which sector or which category. What they care about is that what they're doing is going to have a scalable effect. So that will be across the board in various different types of investments. Yeah, so it really varies from family to family, and it really varies from person to person, as when you're investing with your values, it creates a very different portfolio night and day from one to the other. Do you want to share an example of kind of what you see?
Sure. So first of all, just to elaborate on what Orit just said, in the foundation world, it's very, very true, her last sentence, which is that every foundation is very mission aligned. It's very rare to find a foundation that's making impact investments that are not in line with their social mission. I can share with you two different portfolios. The first one is a UK private foundation called Max Barney. So the goal of the foundation is employment. And so all of the investments are also focused in the field of employment. We've been a first mover, and we are one, if not the first investor in a new Israeli impact fund, which is a debt fund to small businesses. And we have also used debt in investing in employment NGO business arms. And we have another portfolio which belongs to the UJA, which is the UK's largest Jewish community charity investing in Israel. And the UJA took a very bold move. They carved out a portion of their program budget to make impact investments in Israel every year. And we have to date made 8 investments here in Israel. And by the end of the year, I believe we'll make 10 investments. So very active portfolio. We have, I think, 4 of our investments sitting here in the audience. So we're very proud to be your partners. We invest, really the UJA should be very proud. We've invested in employment, education, community development. We've made 1 equity investment, and the rest have also been debt investments. But I just wanted to say a word about tech investments, because I think generally tech entrepreneurs think, philanthropic capital doesn't look at tech investments. So I would say, first of all, that's not true. If you look at the UK, you have Bethnal Green Ventures, you have Nesta. These are 2 solely social tech funds that are funded by foundations and the UK government. And here in Israel, in the last couple of months, I've accompanied 2 British foundations looking at ed-tech investments. And at the UJA, we've made a tech investment in a software which is an extension of Minecraft, gaming for kids in Jewish schools and in Arab schools. So I would say that over the next 12 to 24 months, I think that that's where we'll see the most development as foundations begin to feel a little bit more secure in making direct tech investment. And we can also see with having bridges that have a significant social tech investment, they have a lot of foundations that have invested in them also. And with that, I just wanted to say that Orit and I, together with Jon and Vanessa that you heard previously, and another 16 very active impact investors, and most of them are sitting here in the audience, we're members of Tonic, which is a global network of impact investors. And we're very friendly. We share a lot of the deals that we see. So if you approach one of us and the deal's not for us, we will know who to pass it on to. So I really, really would suggest and warmly recommend that you do reach out to us. You'd be surprised how much capital is here and is available for investment. Would you agree with that?
No, absolutely, absolutely. We're here. I mean, we're doing this. Part of the reason why we went rogue on Nomri is that when we were asked to talk about 2030, what we said is it's all really here. I mean, it's happening, and we're doing it already. What's going to be in 2030? I don't know. But what I can say for sure is that we'll look back at this time that we live in and say that we've lived through a very pivotal and critical point in the shift of people's perspectives on investments. It's just a matter of creating, a beautiful investment portfolio and incorporating your identity into what you invest in. And we see it across the board, and it's already here and it's happening. So on that positive note.
Thank you.
Yeah.